Hello, friends. Molly Ponpadith here, CEO of the SOAR Community Network and co-founder of the SOAR Community Nebula. Our goal this year is to highlight and bring to you 1,000 champions of change and community change agents. And today we have my dear friend, Jason Howell. Thank you so much, Jason, for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Molly.
I'm so grateful that you spent the day this morning or spending some time with me this morning. And one thing that we would like for you to do is reintroduce yourself, not to me, but to our audience, and talk a little bit about the work that you're currently doing in the world.
Sure. Well, thanks. My name, of course, is Jason Howell. I'm a certified financial planner and a former candidate for Congress. About 4 years ago, I started a firm called Jason Howell Company. It's a family wealth and time management firm, and our goal is to really develop parents into patriarchs and matriarchs so they can lead their families and lead the communities that they serve, that they're a part of. You know, I don't think, even as a former political candidate, that the politicians are going to save us. Even watching debates last night, I don't think it's going to all work out the way we necessarily want. But I think families and we the people, which was the original idea, can do that. And so I spend, my career now trying to essentially help families take over their communities and their families and take a leadership position.
Well, as you know, our Nebula Change Agent Initiative is really bringing together thoughtful, mindful, conscious leaders who care about social impact. So as you go back into your mind and your life and you think about experiences or people who have really impacted you in a positive way, who have helped you shift your mindset or your way of being in a profound way, is there a story or two that you can share, or a couple of people that you'd like to highlight?
Well, this is going to hit pretty close to home, and I hope people are able to do the same as they think about this incredibly insightful question. For me, I couldn't go much further than my wife. It's a daily occurrence. The first time I felt that level of kindness and appreciation was when she said yes to being proposed to. I think that's the biggest compliment you can get from any other human being in the world. You want to say, hey, will you spend the rest of your life with me? 1 out of 3 billion or 6 billion, depending on your orientation. And that person says yes. So compliment number one, thank you so much, the biggest compliment I'll ever get. But in the daily routine of life, whether it's making a meal that is new and interesting and different on a random Tuesday or Thursday or Saturday, or folding my clothes as a part of just a daily chore, or not daily, but a weekly or bi-weekly sort of event, that doesn't have to happen. I can fold my own clothes, I can do that. But she does it for me. And the support that she's given me in every adventure that I've taken, whether it is running for Congress or starting a firm, or most recently starting a book, my new book, Joy of Financial Planning, hopefully coming out this fall. All of these take time away from our time. And now that we have 2 tiny humans, time away from our kids, and she supports that and she believes in me. And that is something I just never get over, and I always appreciate.
Beautiful and very powerful. It is wonderful to be in partnership with someone that really likes you as a human being.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, as more essential than loving you, right? I think when someone
Absolutely.
really likes you and they're your friend and they truly are your partner, it's special.
Big deal.
When you think of community builders and change agents in your life, are there attributes that really bubble up, are consistent, that you'd like to share, what you've witnessed or what you've experienced?
Well, for me, the first word that kind of comes to mind when I think of community activists and people who participate is courage. I haven't finished reading the book, which was also purchased by my lovely wife, Profiles in Courage, by John Kennedy. But that idea of saying, I'm going to go do this thing that is not normal, typically takes a lot of courage. And so you could use any sort of figure out there that's been in the past that's sort of been the embodiment of this thing like courage, whether it's Gandhi or whether it's Mother Teresa. But for me, whenever I see that in the normal course of life, someone's speaking up, if my wife is speaking up at the office, that takes courage. If I'm speaking up just around friends about, hey, I don't believe this. When someone is nodding and saying, isn't this right? And you stop and say, no, that's not right. I don't think so. I think that kind of step takes courage, and that's what I admire the most about the people who've been able to make change. It takes courage to make change because you're going against the stream.
Now, how are you currently being a community change agent? Are there organizations, movements, initiatives that you are helping to advance with your gifts and your talents?
Well, when the first tiny humans were on the way, the first tiny human was entering my life. I had to make a decision about what I did with my time, and that's why I call my firm a family wealth and time management firm, because time, of course, is our most precious resource, and so if we're managing money, then we got to manage it around our time, and that's the same with me and my business, and same with me and the rest of my life. And so I whittled down my networking to three major groups. One of them was a business networking group called BNI. Another one was my church, and another one is George Mason University, my alma mater. And so I give of my time in all three of these organizations. I'm on the board or leadership for all three of these organizations. That's where I have the ability, once you go deep into a group, no matter what group it is, if you are devoting real time to it, you're going to find opportunities. And so it's pretty easy to see with a church where that might come. Just last night we had a church meeting and we're talking about certainly our budgets and what we're spending on, but the direction of the church and how we approach people and work with them and give them the spirituality that they're looking for. So that's easy to sort of see and manifest. But George Mason University, how do I do it there on the board? You have opportunities to talk about some of the minutia of things, but you also have the opportunities to talk about how can we be more engaging and more helpful to the people who have graduated from this university, maybe at a time when there wasn't a lot of community here, and bring them back into the fold and let them know there's more to just the alumni network than giving money. There's actually participating and being a part of what we're doing and being a part of the person next to you on your left and right and letting them help you. So that's pretty neat with George Mason that I get to do. And the students, helping create an environment that when they graduate, they have some place to come back to. That's fun. And there's so many iterations of that because there's people. And finally, even in my BNI network, when you're serving in leadership beyond just networking, you have an opportunity to help the other business owners become better at what they do. Whether it's better during a meeting that we might have or just better in their business, which is the whole point of that one, right? It's very specific to business. So I found pockets in my normal life to be able to serve and say, let's look at the people that are in my circle and let's help them. And that's part of what the book is about. I can't be everyone's financial advisor, unfortunately. That'd be really terrific, but I can't. But what I can do is I can share everything I know in one piece of one tool and say, here, take this, let it be a foundation for what you need to know. And if you have more questions, there are plenty of people in my role that you can go to, but at least now you have a foundation. What I think people need more than anything is to be able to still believe in the American dream. And it's really hard to do that if you can't pay the bills and you've got a lot of other stressors. And so I try to take that money issue off the table and transform their lives by transforming essentially their pocketbooks.
Let me ask you this question. When you were running for office, what were some of the lessons that you learned around community building?
The biggest lesson I learned was that most people are reasonable. It seems like the majority of people are unreasonable. I think more often than not, the majority of people are pretty practical by the time they get to the polls. So when I was knocking on doors and meeting people at different events, most people were very willing to listen. There were a few, small percentage that really just didn't want to hear about it. But that was really a small percentage. Most people want to listen. Most people are practical. Most people probably believe what you believe. Whatever it is you think you believe, most people actually share that because we're not that different. We all have concerns, we all have dreams, and how we apply that may be different. The mechanism we believe that can take us to that may be different. But I found so much sameness in shaking 40 to 50,000 hands in a day that it actually gave me great inspiration and great hope. And once again, it was one of those things where it was a compliment where people looked at me and said, well, yeah, I'm going to vote for you. Or yeah, I really believe in what you're saying. It just seemed amazing that was the case. But it wasn't me. It was just that I stepped out and said, I'd be willing to go and serve you in this way. And yes, I guess that's the courage thing again. If you were willing to go and do that, you'd get the same reaction, and I think you'd be overwhelmed. One of the things that surprised me when I would, stand next to a grocery store to get signatures to be on the ballot, people would say, "Oh my gosh, why are you running?" And I tell them why I'm running, and then I'd throw it back at them and I'd say, "Would you ever run?" And they'd say, "Oh gosh, no, never." And I would be so surprised because, I am obviously, especially having lost, no one that much more distinct than anyone else. We all have that ability. The majority of us have that ability to serve in that capacity. And I do wish more people were courageous enough to take that step. And I think the more we put ourselves out there is the more other people are going to really, be attracted to us and see themselves in us. And that's one of the opportunities for us to lead in the community. However, it's just one. Politics is one area. What I'm doing now with my business is another area. Whatever you're doing in your passions, that's another area. The point is to lead and serve in your community, and you're going to get out of it what you'd like.
Right. And I hate to put you on the spot, but I will. Would you ever run again?
I would. I get that question frequently. What I try to tell people now is, what I'm doing is an opportunity to serve people outside of public office. If there was ever an opportunity that I saw where I could serve people more or better inside public office, and of course the family situation was right, then I'd be happy to take it, because like everyone else, I want to make an impact in this world. And there's, it's pretty easy to see how one might be able to do that in public office. But what I see today, and I see this now daily, is so much noise around politicians and so much challenge actually being a politician in office. It seems to me that there's very little we can do to change the very difficult problems, or actually fix the very difficult problems that we have and face today. I had a politician came to one of where I used to work, and was just invited to come and speak. And what he said to me was striking but logical. He said, the challenge we have today is that all the easy problems kind of have been fixed, and we've made great progress. There's a book called Factfulness that I haven't purchased yet or read, but I heard it tells us all the positive things that we've done, not only in this country, but in the world, since a century ago. And it would really, lift your spirits in some degree. But everything that we still have to fix, they're really hard. And you can't fix them in a 2-year cycle for Congress, a 4-year cycle for president, a 6-year cycle for Senate. Someone's got to be able to lose, essentially, and start the chain of events. And that's a really hard thing for a politician to swallow, that I'm going to lose my next election because I started a chain of events that maybe no one will pick up and essentially no one will see. So what I believe today is that as people who are not politicians, we have a great opportunity to make a much larger impact than people who are in office, and we actually need to. That'll give the politicians the courage that they need to be able to make change. But unfortunately or fortunately, we're the ones that have to set the example.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Jason. It's really in my heart to say that, because I feel like there's so many, with this Change Agent interview series, it is very much a validating factor for us, right? To go out and highlight these incredible human beings who really are using their unique gifts and talents, their experiences, their struggles, their challenges, to really show us that goodness is happening. Goodness is being done. We're pouring our hearts and souls into trying to shift our community, and we have to do it community by community by community.
Yes.
We the people, as you had mentioned, right?
We the people. We got it right the first time with the whole Constitution thing. Like, let's just sort of carry that forward.
So now let me ask you this. So you mentioned that you didn't win the first time that you ran,
Sure.
And you've had other challenges in your life. So when things have gotten you down, when life has not been so beautiful and pretty and in flow, is there a quote or a motto or a scripture, something that really helps you to ground you, to bring you back to center?
Well, there are a lot of quotes and scripture as well. I can go to Jeremiah 29:11. For I know the plans I have for you, plans to not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future. That one's a big one for me, Jeremiah 29:11. Philippians 4:13, I can do all things through God who strengthens me. That got me through college because accounting was a very difficult major for me. And I just decided I wanted to learn it. I knew a lot of people who got out of accounting and they were all very attractive. They all went to marketing. And so by the time it was left, there was just a bunch of unattractive folks, me in accounting, trying to figure out this stuff. But I decided I wanted to learn it. So Philippians 4:13, I have not put my diploma on the wall. It's been 20 plus years because I had promised myself that if I could get through it, I would etch Philippians 4:13 on there. I still haven't done it, so I'm not putting it on the wall. But the one that I thought to share for this conversation was actually from Jim Carrey during his, I guess, a speech at graduation. I forgot what the school was, but you'd be able to find it online. And it goes something like this. It came out of a story that he was telling about his father. And it says, you can fail at what you want, and so you might as well take a chance at doing what you love. Jim Carrey. That one guides me. You know, it's very easy for me to make over $100,000 working as a financial advisor in any number of firms. It's very easy. It would have been really easy for me to stay in accounting. I'd probably be making $200,000 a year with a bunch of staff and just sort of dawdling and puppeteering the department. But I've always felt like, you know, I should go closer and closer to what animates me. And that's what I've done. And you're right. There have been some hard times because you look up and you realize that you've sort of, in a way, lost time, at least for the normal treadmill, because you took these chances and risks. So there are days when it's really tough. And people ask me, you know, what's it like having my own business? They say, well, it's a lot better this year in the fourth year than it was even 2 years ago. Very different answers. You know, if recruiters had called me 2.5 years ago, I might have taken the call a little bit more and be like, so what do you really got? They call me now and I just tell them, you're too late. Like, I went through the really hard part, but that's just one season. I know there'll be another season, and everything I do with my time is try to ensure that I'm going to be prepared for that. It's what I do for my tiny humans. I want to try to equip them to prepare them for the next stages in their lives. I try to do that with my wife. You know, one of the tenets I have within my financial planning is family governance. And I'm working more with that. It's something that's typically only exposed to the multi-millionaire families because they've got a lot of money to pass around. But there's no reason why people who are at the normal, you know, thousandaire level, dual income households can't take a hard look at what they're doing and try to be very intentional about their time, their energy, and their attention. I'm still working on that, and I think it's something that we'll always be working on for a long time.
Thank you, Jason.
Sure.
So what would a better world look like through your eyes?
Oh, wow. Yeah, good question. Well, you know, I've got 7 joys of financial planning, and I actually did a presentation on this last week. And so in those 7 categories, I was able to sort of make this. The first one is joy of harmony. And so the idea that we could actually be much more intentional about what we're doing with ourselves, that's where that family governance comes in. But it leads an example for how we can be intentional in our communities, within our nonprofits, within our businesses, within our networking groups, where we are talking about where we've been, and we're assessing where we want to be, and we're making sense of the present. I think that brings harmony. I had an image of, there was a guy who said, I'm giving away free hugs, and he was hugging a policeman in riot gear. He was giving away free hugs. That made the news. I had that image when I talked about the joy of harmony. You know, the joy of enough I talk about, where, you know, in a country where we throw away enough food to feed the world, I think there'd be a great opportunity to find a way to leverage our excess and ensure that, you know, we are spending enough, we're earning enough, we're paying enough taxes, and we're doing what we can with the rest so that it's just not wasted or not utilized. You know, I won't go through all 7, but it's really that idea that, you know, there's a really interesting quote by someone, I guess it's anonymous, and it says, you know, the poverty or the poor don't starve because they don't have enough to eat. The poor starve because the rich, you know, can never be satisfied. Something like that. That one really sort of struck me. And here we are, we've got so much opportunity, and sometimes the easiest thing to do is just coast and just sort of, you know, have enough for yourself. And I guess raising the bar of what that enough means to you is the great opportunity when you happen to be so lucky to be in the wealthiest nation in the world, to have the most opportunities in the world. What your enough ends up being long term can be much more than just you. Most people who have a family know it's beyond them, it's their family, but there's a community that surrounds your family. There's a state, there's a country, there's so much more that we can do. And I want people to believe that they can still achieve the American dream, not just for themselves, but for the community and the nation. And if they get their finances right, then they'll have a great start to that. So that's sort of my cause in life.
That's great. Jason, thank you so much. So now I'd like for you to share one or two things that our community, the SOAR community, can support you personally with. How can we support you? And then how can we find out more information about you and your book and all the great things you're doing?
Thanks. Well, the easiest thing as far as finding me is just going to jasonhowell.com, Jason, HOWELL.com. I got lucky. I bought that in 1999, so it was available. And you'll find my entire world of my business. You'll find links to my book. The book is called Joy of Financial Planning. It'll be out this fall. I do have that URL, so eventually you'll be able to find information there. But the easiest way to support me, I think, is in the same way that I'd like to support your team. It's spreading the message. And so I would love other opportunities like this, whether it's a video, a cast, or a podcast, or an opportunity to speak in front of real people, a real live audience, maybe with a laugh track. That would be terrific. I think the more I can spread this message is the more that other people can take it and run with it and do what they do well. I am not the only person who has talent, as you know, and as you are exploring with this wonderful, SOAR community. There are so many people who have so many strengths. I just want to be one of those people that empowers them to take action with a lot of courage.
That's great, Jason. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. I appreciate our friendship through the years. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to us. And we're delighted that you are living your calling, right?
Thank you. Yes.
Your calling. So I appreciate you. For those that are interested in nominating yourself or someone in your community who's making a difference, please do so by visiting us at nebula.soarcommunitynetwork.com. Thank you so much, everyone, and we will talk to you very soon.